Before we start episode 4, please comment down below if you want us to continue adding in the on-screen pop-ups, or keep the video simple.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 4 of 10 Minute Tanya Tuesday. I'd like to recap where we left off so that we can continue the flow. Before I do so, just want to remind you, if you like the video, please hit the like button, please hit subscribe. And also, in order to get people's questions answered, I would request that you can please comment any questions that you have in the comments of the video or any of the past videos if it's specifically a question on any of those topics, and I will be glad to answer your questions in the next video. I also want to thank today's fake sponsor. We're back to fake sponsors. Things are good. Fake economy is really picking up right now. So we got a lot of fake sponsorships coming your way. And since I was just in LA, I'd like to thank our fake sponsor of this week, Mensch Bakery. Everyone knows that you might have the best character traits of all time. But if you really want to be a mensch, you need to fill up on thousands of calories of chocolate croissants and other baked goods. So if you're in LA, go to Mensch Bakery, say hi to Costa for me. If you know, you know. All right. We talked about the two different parts of the soul that every Jew has, the godly soul and the animal soul. Today I want to get into more detail about the godly soul, because we touched a little bit on the animal soul and its makeup from the klipas, klipa noga, and we'll talk about some other klipas later. But in the meantime, I want to touch on the godly soul. Now, the godly soul is so unbelievably special because it's truly a part of God, meaning it never, not that God forbid, has parts to him, but that it never really separates itself from God's essence. Now, we know this because it says, where did the soul come from? When we talk about the beginning of creation, where God created Adam, how did he create him? It says, Vayipach ba'apav nishmat chaim. Hashem, God, blew into Adam's nostrils a soul of life. Now, we also say in daily prayers, Atana fachtabi, Hashem, God, you blew the soul into me, like when we say Elokai Shema in the morning, in brachas. So what is this blowing that Hashem blew our soul into us? If you think about when you speak, right? Most people don't run out of breath when they talk. And if you do, you should probably see a doctor. But when you blow, if you were to blow a balloon or just blow really hard, you would lose your breath really quickly, right? Some people have bigger lung capacities, but eventually you lose your breath because it takes a lot more effort to blow than it does to speak. And the reason for that is because when you blow from your innermost point. So you're blowing from inside your lungs. You take a deep breath and, right? There's only so long you can do that for. Only so long I can do that for. And so when we talk about our soul, where did our soul originate from? Our godly soul. It originated from the inwardmost point of God, meaning his real essence, because it says, Man de nafach mitochei nafach. Where does someone blow from? He blows from within. So Hashem, God, blew from his innermost point in order to create our soul. And so God decides, okay, he's going to create Jewish souls. He says, all right, I'm going to create them. It came to my mind. Now I'm going to blow this godly soul of life into their body so that their bodies can exist, because their bodies can't exist without their souls, right? And if you think about that, there's no greater sign of love from God that creates a father-son bond that says we're Hashem's children, we're God's children. And as it says, B'ni Bechori Israel, that Bnei Yisrael are Hashem's firstborn, we're the Bechor, Banim atem LaHashem Elokechem, that we will be children to Hashem. And what is this children, father-son, children analogy? And as Hasidus does always, there's a parable that I'm going to give you to explain this relationship of father-son and exactly why we're Hashem's children. Not just in a nice feel-good way, but in a spiritually, what's the word here? The spiritual architecture of how we're actually Hashem's children. Think about how a human baby is formed, right? And stay mature here, children. There's a drop of semen that is issued from a father when he's having marital relations with a mother. Now, the semen and the seminal emission is actually controlled by the brain. That's why you have to be stimulated for that. But your brain feels the stimulation and emits that seminal drop. And so a father's brain is essentially what gives life to the seminal drop. And then Moshe and Brian, you can comment on this later. That drop is implanted in the mother, and that develops over 9 months in the womb. The mother obviously does her part, and eventually a child is born. Now, the child is born, it no longer needs the womb, it no longer needs the seminal drop, it no longer needs the father's brain. However, those were the originators and cultivators of the son. Now the son is born. The baby exists as an independent entity. As long as it can be nurtured, it stays alive. Now, let's say this baby grows up and becomes a full, nice, healthy human. Even the lowest level of that baby's body, let's say the toenails, right? The toenails are the most removed organ or body part from the brain. However, those toenails are sustained by the brain because the brain has a process, whether you feel it or not, for growing your toenails. Now, the brain of the son, who's now an adult, originated from the seminal drop of the father. And that drop originated from the father's brain. And so, by way of association, you can say that the son's toenails were founded or created by the brain of the father. All right, so you follow? Father's brain, father emits seminal drop, mother cultivates, son is born, son's brain controls the processes of the organ and body within the son, and therefore, by association, the father's brain controls the son's toenails. Now, what's the big difference between people and God? In our process, once the baby is born, once the seminal drop is emitted, the son no longer has any tangible connection to the father other than understanding its origin. But because we can exist without our fathers once we're alive. However, when it comes to God, who gives life to everything, and his utterances of saying, I want this world and the people and the souls to exist, have to be constantly uttered at all times. Yes, God in his brain thought to create people. And then he breathed this soul that he created, and we'll talk about the drop and whatever later, but he breathed that soul into man to exist. With God's thought, because God's thought is what creates, if he stops thinking that, it all disappears. Which means that God's brain, which created our souls, has to always be thinking that. We always have to have that attachment. Meaning our souls are literally always one with God. We're not the child because God's not human. We are the child in that same methodology. But we're not independent. Our soul depends on God at all times, which means that our soul is actually one with God at all times, our godly soul. And that's a crazy thing to think about, that you are actually one with God at all times. It's been 10 minutes. Again, like and subscribe, especially if you made it this far. And we will see you in the next one. Peace out.